Hi there, my name is Paulina, and today I'm going to be giving a presentation on coping skills. And this is going to just generally go through different kinds of coping skills and when certain kinds of skills might be appropriate compared to other moments for other skills. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you have a better understanding of what tools might be available to you in different moments and how to get yourself connected to the skills that might be useful for you given your needs. So first, we want to focus on coping for the long haul, meaning that this pandemic has been filled with lots of different changes and different phases. And when we think about coping, we want to be flexible based on what any given moment presents to us and the different needs that might arise as time passes and things change. And so as you can see in this diagram, this is a phases of disaster diagram that is used to map the chronological course of a traditional disaster and how that might relate to emotional highs and lows, which you can see on that y-axis. And typically there's lots of ups and downs, as you can see on this diagram. And of course, the pandemic has been a bit unique in that it's not a traditional disaster that has a discrete start and end. And so there might be lots of different times where you need different things. Now, a lot of us might be, to some extent, going back to in person for different parts of our lives. Some of us maybe never stopped going in person. And there's lots of different ways that you might have new challenges arise as this thing progresses and evolves. So we want to be open and flexible and understanding that our coping skills that might help us might need to evolve as well. So to get into a little bit more detail about different kinds of coping skills, we're going to break this down into 3 different levels. So the first level are skills for immediate in the moment stress reduction. Next, we have skills that are more on a day-to-day basis where you might be engaging in wellness routines, managing distress through regular activities that you kind of incorporate into your everyday life. And then we have on the third level, long-term investments in wellness and alleviating suffering. So these are things where the thing you're struggling with might not be able to get resolved with a quick tip or a quick fix. And so these kinds of investments might help for those more complex and difficult long-term struggles. But now we'll go through each level individually. So level 1, immediate stress reduction tools. There's a couple of different kinds of immediate stress reduction tools that you might think about. So first, there's breathing techniques such as square breathing and diaphragmatic breathing. And at the end, I'm going to go through an example of square breathing. But these are things that can help us tap into our breath in order to relax our bodies and minds, come back to a healthy baseline, and be more ready to engage in problem solving and coping because we've kind of used our breath to come back down to a state where we're able to access all of our internal resources. Next, there are distress tolerance skills, which is kind of a catch-all term for different kinds of tools that you might use, like distraction or self-soothing, or something called a progressive muscle relaxation, which is a kind of guided relaxation protocol. And these things might be helpful if you're feeling really overwhelmed with a strong emotion or a distressing experience, and you're just trying to ride out those waves of distress and discomfort. And these are healthy and safe ways to do that and to feel like you have things you can lean on as you're trying to get through on the other side of a really intense experience. And grounding exercises are really useful for, again, kind of returning to the moment if you get triggered or spun out into maybe a trauma response, or if you're struggling with grief and it's really hard for you to feel present, you're feeling really disconnected. Grounding exercises are useful for really helping us connect to what's right in front of us and what's going on right now. And some examples are tapping into your 5 senses, observing the environment around you on a really granular level, And these things all help us kind of be in the moment. So to go through an example of square breathing, I'm also going to model for you how to use some of the New Jersey Hope and Healing resources that have been developed throughout the pandemic, which a lot of them do go into these immediate stress reduction tools and provide resources for how you can do that on your own and try to incorporate that into your day-to-day life. So to access the resources that we've developed for coping on level 1, you can go to this URL, the GAZAP Rutgers website that is focused on the FEMA grant, the New Jersey Hope and Healing grant, and this is our resources page. So here you'll see a whole list of different kinds of resources, and these are a mixture of webinars that are pre-recorded or audio recorded, mindfulness meditations. They might also be PDFs or digital resources that are asynchronous. So there's just a whole bunch of different types of resources for different areas of coping. So we have the general resources, the frontline healthcare worker resources, resources for youth and families, current and recent grads, and then Spanish resources. So there's a whole bunch to choose from. And we're going to take one example here from the breathing exercises PowerPoint. So this takes you to a whole range of slides on breathing exercises. So like I said, we're going to go through the square breathing exercise together, or it's also called box breathing. So this is based on an ancient yoga technique and helps with using the breath again in a controlled way. It can help you kind of relax. It's good for getting out of a panic attack. It's also helpful with falling asleep. So here are the steps are outlined. And this diagram is helpful to kind of use as a tool alongside of the steps. So in box breathing, we slowly exhale all the air out of our lungs, and then we gently inhale through the nose to a slow count of 4. And you visualize as you inhale a box filling in one side. Then you're going to hold your breath for 4 seconds and visualize that next side being filled in on the box. Then you gently exhale for a count of 4 and envision that next side of the box being filled in as you breathe. And then you rest for 4 as you envision the box being completely filled in. So the combined visualization and counting helps people feel really in control, really focused on a task in a way that allows things like panic and overwhelm to dissipate, because you have to be entirely focused on the exercise for it to work. So let's try it together now. So we're going to start by exhaling all the air in our lungs out. And then gently inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Rest, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Rest, 2, 3, 4. So those are just examples of how you can utilize the New Jersey Hope and Healing resources to practice these immediate stress reduction tools, and going throughout your day and in moments where you might become overwhelmed or become faced with a difficult situation, you can know that there are these tools you have in your back pocket that will help you get through that moment. So now we're going to look at level 2, the daily wellness routines. And again, these are things that help promote wellness and health and a balanced lifestyle on a daily basis. So that might look like exercise every day or as frequently as you can, which will help you feel endorphins and the natural energy and good feelings that come from doing something that promotes health. And that can also even be combined with the next one, right? A regular social connection. So maybe you even want to exercise with a buddy or in a group. And even if you're not going to combine those two, regular social connection and joy is really important to try to incorporate as often as possible. It's really easy in these times to lose track of things that make us feel relaxed and good and connected to people. We can really get bogged down with just grinding through each day. But when we connect with other people and we feel that joy of something like a game night or watching a movie with friends on Zoom, or something just where you're totally in the moment with other people and enjoying something, that can really help us have stuff, the gas in our tank, when we're dealing with more difficult things. We've had that connection to our friends and people who make us feel good and have had some joy that keeps us going. Then we have like learning hobbies that promote creativity, meaning, connection, things like reading or taking up a DIY project, things that really promote a feeling of agency and like you're getting in touch with parts of you that might not always get a chance to be expressed, like creativity, things that just help you feel connected and a sense of purpose and like you've accomplished something are really helpful for coping with a time when we have a lot of loss of control or a lot of monotony. And then giving back to your community helps people feel, again, that sense of purpose and connection to a greater good, connection to the people around you instead of feeling isolated. And doing good things for other people helps, restore hope for communities in a time where it can feel so dark, so hopeless. This kind of work really helps people feel back on their positive mindset about themselves and the world they're living in and the contributions they're making. And on the third level are long-term investments. And so again, we've been talking about these three different levels, and it's important to recognize when you're struggling with something like what level of skill do I need, right? Because if you're having a really difficult situation, maybe you have a complex family issue that continues to come up and continues to cause struggles for you. You don't really know how to solve it. You've tried talking to friends about it and solving it on your own, and it just isn't working out, right? Maybe it's time to seek a more long-term investment, such as seeking therapy and professional help with whatever this problem is, because if you keep trying to use a level 1 or level 2 coping skill, you're going to continue to feel unsuccessful, right? Because it's not an appropriate level of skill or tool, right, to address the depth of this and complexity of this issue, right? So we want to really be aware of when a long-term investment is needed so that we're not feeling that like why frustration, right? Of like, why can't I figure this out with what I'm already trying? So we've already mentioned seeking therapy, which can be a really helpful way to have a lot of time and space to work on deeper issues and more complex issues that are hard to tackle alone or in the short term, although some therapy is short term, right? So there's a range of even within this kinds of therapy you might seek. And then there's developing a mindfulness practice. And again, this is kind of takes a little bit more time to develop a muscle where you can utilize mindfulness tools when you need them, as opposed to just doing it one time. You're not going to experience the same benefits as opposed to really working and building up a regular practice. And then we have maintaining healthy habits like sleep and healthy food and energizing movement, which again, if maybe you're struggling with wellness, those daily routines are helpful, but they're not quick fixes in the sense that you'll see changes in one day, right? We want to make a long-term shift in healthy behaviors so that that part of our bodies and minds is nourished regularly and not just as a knee-jerk reaction when we're struggling with those things. And lastly, I just want to bring up these three themes of agency, meaning, and connection, because of course, everyone's going to need a different kind of coping skill based on their unique situation. Some things might work well for one person and not so much for another person based on a host of factors and context. But usually a common theme when looking for a coping skill is that things that promote agency, meaning, and connection really help us in dark times or in times of high need and struggle and distress. Because agency really helps us feel less helpless and hopeless, right? We feel more in control and able to manage what is within our power to address. Meaning helps us feel connected to our values and the people around us, and we have a sense of why we're doing this and why we go on and keep trying to improve and live lives where we're thriving. And connection to other people helps us feel less isolated, right? And lonely, which is something that in this pandemic has been so challenging to fight through at times. So, again, no matter what coping skill you find works for you, looking for things that promote this is will be a helpful path to find those things that really make your life feel better and make you feel like you have tools to keep going even when it gets difficult. So this last slide just provides more information about the New Jersey Hope and Healing Program. We offer a range of different kinds of support services, from short-term crisis counseling to webinars, all of those digital free resources that I showed online as well. And all of our resources are free and confidential. So if there's something you're looking for, you can feel free to go to that website link or that email link to inquire about services and let us know what you're looking for and how we can help. And thank you so much for spending time watching this webinar today. Hopefully you found it helpful, and we wish you the best.